partner, Trump Daily Post. Today's rundown is led by President Trump's cabinet meeting, where he addressed Iran, security in Washington, and the administration's priorities right here at home, alongside a White House policy push to fuel demand for skilled American workers and expand apprenticeships across the country. Now, from the Pool Report, President Trump, he took questions during today's cabinet meeting. It began at 12:52 p.m. Eastern and made clear the administration intends to maintain a National Guard presence in Washington, D.C., with Pete Hegseth indicating a planned summer surge. On foreign policy, the president said that no country would control the Strait of Hormuz, stated that Oman must comply with international norms, and reiterated that Iran cannot be allowed to obtain a nuclear weapon. He also said that sanctions on Iran would not be eased until proper behavior is observed, and noted that gas prices would in fact come down once the conflict ends. The president also commented on the recent shooting near the White House, acknowledging the risks that come with the office, and said that additional Gulf state participation in the Abraham Accords could affect the Iran negotiations. Now, earlier in the cabinet meeting, from the Pool Report, President Trump, he praised recent election results in Texas and elsewhere as fantastic, and pointed to progress on drug prices as potential political strength heading right into the midterms. He said Iran is negotiating on fumes and suggested that further action remains possible if needed. The president also gave Tulsi Gabbard a warm send-off, calling her a terrific person. And cabinet members, they wore red hats marking America's 250th anniversary, while Vice President J.D. Vance and Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche discussed anti-fraud efforts. Senator Marco Rubio said the president prefers negotiation and noted that some progress and interest from Iran, and again underscored that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. President Trump also announced that work on the reflecting pool is now 70% complete, with a goal of finishing before July 4th, and water that will be, in his words, American blue. The White House said that President Trump's policies are fueling demand for skilled American workers as more young Americans turn toward the trades. And according to the White House, 60% of Generation Z plans to pursue skilled trade work in 2026, while the administration is targeting more than 1 million new registered apprentices. The Trump administration also highlighted expanded 529 savings use for trade certifications, broader Pell Grant support for skilled trades, and more than $229 million in Labor Department grants for apprenticeship growth, and a policy barring illegal aliens from taxpayer-funded workforce programs. And according to the daily guidance, the president's Wednesday schedule, it began with executive time at about 8 a.m., followed by the 11 a.m. cabinet meeting in the cabinet room, which was, of course, covered by the White House press pool. The president also had 2 afternoon policy meetings in the Oval Office that were scheduled at 3 and 4 p.m. Both were closed to the press. Now, from the morning Pool Report, the cabinet meeting was identified as the president's only public event on the schedule today, with additional updates to follow if needed. Now, in the next pool note, reporters gathered at the briefing room doors. That was right ahead of the cabinet meeting, and the White House indicated the meeting would be live streamed for public viewing. Later, the White House announced that a lunch lid was in effect until 2:40 p.m., marking a routine midday pause in official activity. And of course, looking back to last night, the White House press pool was informed of a travel photo lid. That was at 7:36 p.m. last night, signaling no further public events for the remainder of the evening. Now, taken together, the past 24 hours show an active Trump White House focused on national security, economic strength, workforce development, and a full slate of internal policy work. And that's the latest from the White House. Now, let's turn to the rest of the top stories that are shaping the day. So welcome to Between the Headlines. That was our White House briefing for the day. We've got lots of news we're going to be covering in this edition that we are going to be covering a lot from the day's events. We're going to be discussing more on some of those ICE raids in New Jersey. We've also got stories on the Democrat AGs that were boycotting Vice President Vance's anti-fraud roundtable. That was last night. And New York City under the microscope again. Mandami, he has a building seizure plan that's now been exposed. We're going to get into that. Also, we're going to dive deeper into the president's secret gas price plan. I know you guys are anxious to hear what's going to happen at the pump. Well, we've got the news for you there. Also, we've got news from outer space. Yes, we're continuing to monitor the Department of War's Pentagon drops from the disclosure of aliens, but something even bigger happening on the moon. And we can all look to the skies and look forward to seeing an American flag planted there, and quite a few astronauts of our own taking up permanent residency. Also, we're going to talk about RFK Jr. and his work to expose what's known as chemtrails. This is a big development from the administration. We'll also be talking about what happened in that cabinet meeting. So much happened today in that cabinet meeting. We've got all the clips lined up, 7 stories, and of course President Trump going after Ilhan Omar, as he should, as well as other elements from that cabinet meeting. So we've got a full slate of news all set up for you tonight. And thank you for joining us on this live broadcast at the Next News Network with our streaming partner, Trump Daily Post. Give them a follow, and you will not be disappointed. So it's good to see everybody here. We got Jeremy and Vicky and Cindy and Bill and everybody filing in. So we're just getting started, broadcasting on all platforms. Trump Daily Post, Next News on X, as well as on YouTube and on Rumble. So make sure, if you haven't checked us out on any of those platforms, I encourage you to go there and give us a follow. And you can also make sure that you do sign up for our SMS system that we have set up. That's a secret number, 840-4963. You just got to text the words raw feed. You'll join thousands of patriots who are getting the updates when they matter most, when the notifications never arrive from the chosen platform that you follow us on. So that's our way to bypass those restrictions that conservative media sadly has to find workarounds for. So let's jump right into our first story of the evening. We're going to talk about what happened, more about those events in Newark. So let's jump right into it, Brian. ICE agents just rammed straight through a mob of masked rioters trying to blockade federal vehicles that happened outside a Newark facility. The footage shows vehicles pushing agitators aside as the crowd screams and surges. This is not symbolic protest anymore. This is open physical obstruction of immigration enforcement right here on American soil. Supporters are cheering the hardball response, while critics call it dangerous escalation. The Trump administration is making it very clear that federal operations will not be halted by street theater. One question hangs over everything: how far will these radical activists push before they face real federal consequences? Now, the Republic rests on whether law enforcement can do its job without being physically blocked or politically sabotaged. When mobs treat ICE facilities like protest zones and try to shut down lawful arrests of criminal aliens, they're attacking the border itself. Every successful blockade encourages more cities to copy the tactic. Sanctuary policies already let dangerous offenders roam free, and now activists want to add physical intimidation on top of that. If federal agents back down here, the message spreads that enforcement is optional and negotiable. That weakness invites chaos at every detention center and every border crossing. So viewers watching this need to understand that the choice is very simple: restored sovereignty or open surrender to organized resistance. Now, before we continue, a quick note on staying strong through these intense times. Now, you've probably seen the clip of Joe Rogan sitting with Mel Gibson talking about people close to them who face serious health struggles and then saw dramatic turnarounds. Rogan brings up light-based therapies and how they impact the body at a cellular level. Gibson says it straight, the stuff works. That got my attention because in my own life I watched something very similar unfold. For a long time, my wife was dealing with constant discomfort and anxiety. It was one of those situations where nothing seemed to stick until we tried red light therapy from Jonathan Otto, and the difference was noticeable within weeks, and she has not looked back. Now, Jonathan Otto, he's made this technology accessible for everyday Americans who refuse to accept feeling run down while fighting for the country that we love. So visit myredlight.com. Use NNN25 for individual items or NNN30 for bundles. Now back to the enforcement story that's unfolding right now across the country. While Newark shows agents refusing to yield ground, another major city just handed conservatives fresh proof that progressive policing is collapsing. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara resigned after investigators found that he deleted evidence during a sex scandal probe. This comes after years of the department taking knees for BLM, pushing DEI hires, and shielding illegal aliens. So the pattern keeps repeating in these deep blue strongholds. Let's take a look here. We've got this. ICE agents just went hardball mode, ramming into leftist rioters who tried blockading federal vehicles in Newark, New Jersey. Take a look at some of this footage here that's coming out of Newark, New Jersey. Absolutely crazy. And ICE is not backing down, and they certainly shouldn't. They should not put up with any of this garbage at all. So we're going to continue tracking through some of this news that's coming out of Newark as we continue our coverage of the ICE activities that are happening across the country. Continuing here, we are going to go into the, this is a local report. Even after taking a knee for BLM hiring DEI cops, being anti-ICE, harboring illegal aliens, and shielding Somali fraudsters, rapists, and pedos, Minneapolis PD Chief Brian O'Hara forced to resign amid a sex scandal cover-up.
Police Chief Brian O'Hara is out of a job.
Mayor Jacob Fry says he accepted O'Hara's resignation after allegations he interfered in an investigation. Audrey Russo's live outside of MPD headquarters with what the mayor is calling a breach of trust. Audrey.
Really a lot to sift through here. The original investigation began around this time last year, and the allegations were that now former Chief O'Hara engaged in a sexual relationship with at least one city employee. Now, the independent law firm investigating this actually didn't find enough evidence to substantiate that claim. So where does the breach of trust come in? Well, the law firm did find that Chief O'Hara deleted a city employee's contact off of his city-issued phone during the course of that investigation. Now, that constituted a breach of trust and an interference in the investigation. The law firm also found that Chief O'Hara shared information from the investigation with another city employee after he was specifically instructed not to. So Mayor Jacob Fry says he received all of these findings yesterday morning and by 4 p.m. had plans in place to reprimand the chief.
I informed the chief that I would be disciplining him up to and including discharge, and he resigned. I have accepted his resignation. This is not about being intolerant of mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, including me.
Yeah, you have.
But what I can't allow is a breach of trust.
Was that the same police chief that sided with all of those rioters? Well, let's continue here because we have Secretary Mullen of DHS calling out the exact priorities behind the protests that we've been tracking here.
It just shows where these, extreme radical Democrats' priorities are when they choose Memorial Day, of all the days, to go out and protest the fact that we took criminals off the streets. Their priorities lie more with protecting these criminals, which are the worst of the worst, than it is actually, I would say celebrating the sacrifice that men and women across this nation have paid for the freedoms that they have to go out there and practice their First Amendment rights. But why Memorial Day? Why would they choose Memorial Day? And that was my complaint, because I was talking to them all day yesterday because, Andy Kim, Senator Andy Kim called me and said he wanted access to the facility because there were claimed that there was hunger strikes, but there was not hunger strikes going on. I said, Andy, give me a little bit. Let me get somebody in there for you. And we ended up allowing him to have access to it. We said, you can't go in there with your staff and film and cause a big show. And then you had the governor, Cheryl, jumped in. Then you had the other representatives and then Senator Cory Booker that was posting. And it's like it was all for show. And at the same time, they're trying to tell me they were trying to de-escalate the situation when you had Antifa flags flying out there. And at the same time, Sean, we called for assistance for the police because they were barricading the roads and they were trying to get through the gates. Not one time did the police respond. Not a single time did the local PD or state police responded to our call for assistance.
Absolutely shameful. Leaving their fellow law enforcement officers out to dry. While in nailing, where radical Democrats stand on Memorial Day, see the same crowd now clashing with agents outside claiming that hunger strike, chaos, left-wing lunatics clashing with law enforcement as they continue their, quote, hunger strike. Law enforcement are not having it, yelling for the crowd to get back. This is from Freedom News TV.
Your own people steal your shit. Watch it! Back the fuck up!
Yeah, that's about enough of that, right? So the real divide is no longer policy disagreement. It's become two completely separate emotional realities. One side sees ICE raids and police crackdowns as the return of order and national sovereignty under President Trump. The other side views every enforcement action as militarized overreach and civil rights abuse. Because those views cannot coexist, every confrontation instantly becomes a national loyalty test. Newark is now the clearest example yet that obstruction will be met with force and that the era of symbolic protest winning is over. So this fight is about whether America still enforces its own laws or lets radical activists dictate terms on the street. The Trump administration is choosing enforcement, and that choice is restoring order one facility at a time. If you agree that federal agents should never have to ram through mobs just to do their jobs, drop a yes in the comments right now. And then text the words raw feed like thousands of patriots before you to the number 844-840-4963. That's how you get direct updates from me that bypass the algorithmic suppression. And check out the Next News merch shelf below this video for more ways to stand with law and order in America 250. The border belongs to the people who built this nation, not the mobs trying to tear it down. Okay, moving right along. Brian, I think you may have overwrote one of my buttons here. Yes, you did. It was the button that had, okay, so we had this one, and then we had this one. So where you moved the lower third button on my Stream Deck, you overrode whatever was there. No, there was something there. Yeah, of course I know what was there because I was looking for it during the stream. It's basically this. No. It's this without me. No. Okay, you see this scene that I have here? It does not have me in it. It's just the video and the chat. Yes. So why do I not have a button for it? I know why, because you deleted it. Okay. That's how the sausage is made here at the Next News Network, guys. We're having some fun on the live stream. Thanks for joining us. Looks like everybody's filing in. If I'm not missing what's happening there. What's up, Sophia, over there on X? Great to see everybody. The numbers are climbing. Make sure you go ahead and reshare this on your X platform or on your favorite social media site. But as I always say, the most effective means of communication is when we share via text message, because that is one-to-one communication, and text messages with you and your friends are most trusted. I mean, would you rather receive a text message from your friend or from a faceless social media platform? Am I right? So that's why go ahead and copy this link, share it out to your social media platforms, and help us grow our numbers, grow this family here. And again, we are streaming on the Next News X account, as well as Trump Daily Posts, our new streaming partner. Give them a follow. And we're also on Rumble and YouTube. So that is where this message is being transmitted. And we are just happy that you have decided to join us. So Brian, I'm not sure where I'm going to press that button. Did you put it somewhere? Because I don't see it on my Stream Deck. Oh, chat video? Oh, okay, there's no... All right, let me see if I can make that work. Chat video? There it is. Okay, wonderful. Okay, Brian, let's get our next story locked and loaded. We got to talk about what's happening from the anti-fraud roundtable that happened less than 24 hours ago. We need to get into that. So let's load it up and get this show on the road. Now I can hear you. Okay, I guess Brian's not ready, so I'm going to go back to chilling with the chat room. Let's see what you guys are talking about. Trump is attacking Iran again. I thought peace was here. Well, peace will only be here once Iran has been brought to heel. Brian hides the button. What's up, Perry, Georgia? And what about Iran? We'll be talking about that. We've got the news. That's fit to print, as they say. Have a smiley day. What's up, Remmer? Okay, we're going to talk about this next story. We'll talk about the fraud and Iran negotiating on fumes. We got all the stuff that's going on from the cabinet meeting today, so we'll keep you all up to date on everything there. So, am I? Or we can move. We can move along. Okay. Yep. Okay, I appreciate it. You can, maybe write a blog about it. All right. Okay, let's go. Democrat attorneys general just delivered a stunning signal by refusing every invitation from Vice President J.D. Vance to his White House anti-fraud roundtable. Republicans showed up ready to fight waste while Democrats stayed home. This boycott tells the country exactly where they stand. They are choosing to protect the fraud that drains over $500 billion from American taxpayers every single year. The Trump administration is declaring open war on government corruption. So what does it mean when one party refuses to even show up? Now, this matters because ordinary families pay the price for every dollar that's stolen. When federal workers inside agencies help scam small businesses and programs or demand bribes from disabled veterans, the system itself becomes the enemy. Americans lose $1.4 billion every day to this fraud. That money should fix roads, support our troops, but instead it funds insiders and schemes. The administration is exposing how the federal government turned into an extraction machine that loots taxpayers. If Republicans succeed in clawing it back, the results will hit every household through lower deficits as well as restored trust. Democrats boycotting this fight leaves them exposed as defenders of the status quo. So America's critical mineral supply chain faces its own national security crisis. It's tied directly to the same waste and fraud patterns. This breaking news on America's critical mineral supply chain. The Saga metal story just got stronger. Less than 48 hours ago, Saga released new information suggesting its radar project may be sitting on one of the largest titanium vanadium systems on the planet. Now, Brian, if you could just get the correct add up, that would be swell. So Saga trades as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada. So to understand the scale, compare radar to China's Panzinhua deposit. That's a state-linked system valued in the multi-billion-dollar range. and responsible for over 40% of global vanadium supply. Check out the in-depth interview that I did with the CEO just last weekend and check the exclusive briefing link below, but it's only for Next News viewers. These domestic fines can reduce reliance on adversarial nations that exploit global supply chains the same way fraud networks exploit federal programs. Now, back to the escalating battle against government fraud. Stephen Miller dropping the most explosive line of the day, claiming the fraud totals are so massive that stopping it alone could balance the entire federal budget. That reframes every tax dollar and every deficit as a direct result of theft rather than policy. The White House is building a powerful case that America was looted, not merely mismanaged. Let's jump into some of the posts here. Trump Daily Post here writing, every Democrat attorney general just boycotted Vice President J.D. Vance in his major anti-fraud roundtable at the White House. J.D. personally invited each AG, and all Democrats said no. The GOP showed up. Democrats are letting us know that they are the party of fraud.
Vice President Vance will hold a roundtable with state attorneys general on anti-fraud initiatives. This comes as the Trump administration cracks down on a wide range of fraud. We will bring that event to you live when it happens, but for now, America Reports.
A live look at the White House now ahead of a rare and critical cabinet meeting happening at Camp David tomorrow. It comes as tensions rise after the U.S. carried out defensive strikes in southern Iran. Welcome to America Reports as we kick off a brand new week. I'm Sandra Smith in New York. Bill, good to have you here today.
Hey, Sandra, as always, great to be with you. Happy Tuesday.
So, Democrats boycotting the entire anti-fraud roundtable. Senator Joni Ernst laying out the scale of the theft happening inside the system. Jaw-dropping betrayal. We lost $1.4 billion daily to fraud. That's over $500 billion a year. And let's see, we got the clip. Let's listen.
We have discovered, as I've worked through a number of these fraud cases, is that we lose approximately $1.4 billion every single day to fraud. That's taxpayer money. It's real money, Maria. And so through these small business programs, we're now exposing people working within the system, actually working for our federal government agencies that are perpetuating the fraud. We've got, examples of a fraudfluencer who was using social media to recruit participants in a small business scheme, and she gained the system by about $3.5 million. We have another example of a VA representative who was really asking disabled veterans for bribes in order to get their disability paperwork done. So we have all kinds of bad actors out there. We're going to expose them today. I'm thankful for Luke Rosiak's great work and so many others that have really brought America's attention to the fraud that's being committed against the federal government and our taxpayers.
The staggering sum, unbelievable. Federal workers running the scams themselves. Stephen Miller explains how massive the numbers really are. Jack Posobiec says it's Miller time.
Abiding by our laws. And the amount that has been fleeced from us is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. I believe, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, is that we could balance the federal budget if the only dollars that went out of the Treasury went to individuals who were properly, lawfully, correctly eligible to receive them. And that ultimately is going to be what we have to do as a country. In the meantime, because of the Vice President's leadership, you are seeing the most muscular, robust, aggressive, dedicated, determined, and speedy effort to shut down criminal fraud that has not only ever occurred in the history of this country, but in any developed nation. So thank you.
No, thank you, Stephen Miller. It's so massive. Eliminating alone could balance the entire federal budget. Listen to this.
Not abiding by our laws. And the amount that has been fleeced from us is in the hundreds of billions of dollars. I believe, based on what I've seen and what I've heard, is that we could balance the federal budget if the only dollars that went out of the Treasury went to individuals who were properly, lawfully, correctly eligible to receive them. And that ultimately is going to be what we have to do as a country. In the meantime...
So Stephen Miller laying out the scale is so massive, it could balance the entire budget. J.D. Vance reveals the anti-fraud task force has already clawed back billions from scammers and fraudsters. In just 2 months, we exposed billions of dollars in benefits that have been stolen from the American people. Let's go now to the vice president at the round table less than 24 hours ago.
Let me just recap for the benefit of our friends of the media. In just 2 months, we exposed billions of dollars in benefits that have been stolen from the American people. We referred over $22 billion in fraudulent small business loans back to the Treasury for collection. We deferred more than $1.3 billion in fraudulent Medicaid reimbursements that were coming from various states, particularly California. We put a 6-month hold on enrollments for new hospice and home health care providers because so many of the newer hospice providers were not actually providing hospice services, but were just focused on fraud. So we're going to cut that out for a little bit and try to get to a place where we can actually certify that the people providing hospice services are actually providing those very necessary and important services. We've recovered taxpayer funds from the $135 billion stolen after the floodgates were open in the immediate aftermath of COVID. We have found $6.3 billion in suspected fraudulent government contracts, which were mostly awarded during the last administration, and that has stopped. And finally, we've blocked $60 million in student aid fraud that should have gone to young people trying to get an education, but instead we're going to fraudsters. And I think the theme here of the anti-fraud task force up to this point has really been that we're protecting two classes of victims here. We're protecting the American taxpayers who shouldn't have their money stolen by fraudsters. And of course, we're protecting the people who need these services. Fraud is not a victimless crime. This is not somebody gets to make some money for violating the law, and otherwise it's not a big deal. This is people who rely on critical services, students who rely on student loan services, sick people who rely on hospice care, a number of small businesses who rely on the availability of these loans so that they can grow their business and hire people. All of these people, all of our fellow Americans have been taken advantage by fraudsters, and the task force is here to stop it.
And that's exactly what they are doing. They are freezing new hospice providers because so many of the newer hospice providers were not actually providing hospice services. They were just focused 100% on fraud. So this campaign is no longer about accounting. It's about the moral centerpiece of the Trump administration and their argument. Disabled veterans extorted for bribes, fake Medicaid claims, bogus hospice providers, and hundreds of billions stolen during COVID show a system that betrayed the American people. The task force has already referred $22 billion in bad loans back to the Treasury, deferred $1.3 billion in Medicaid fraud, and blocked $6.3 billion in fake contracts. Prison time for the guilty is the next step, and every recovered dollar belongs back to the American people. So the bottom line is quite clear. Republicans are fighting to end the looting while Democrats boycott the effort and shield the fraud. This is what winning looks like for everyday Americans who deserve a government that protects their money instead of stealing it. So share this report, comment below, and let us know what you think. Does the Democrat boycott prove that they're the party of fraud? And make sure you join the thousands of patriots before you who've already texted those two words, raw feed, to 844-840-4963. That's that number you see right there on the screen. They're already bypassing the algorithm, and they're getting direct updates from me right to their phone when it matters most. And if you haven't done so yet, check out the Next News merch shelf. Celebrate America 250 with us. The Trump administration is delivering accountability, and that means real victories for America. All right, moving right along. Hope everyone's enjoying this. It is Wednesday, May 27th. Currently 7:18 Central, 8:18 Eastern Time. You're watching us live right here on the Next News X feed, as well as Trump Daily Posts on X, our new streaming partner, and on YouTube and Rumble. So give us a follow on all platforms, and make sure you stay up to date. That's how we keep you informed so you can make informed decisions for yourself and your family. Yes, Markham, we need to see them put in jail. I appreciate all of the clawing back. I really do. I want to see all that money returned to the Treasury so that it can actually go and benefit the American people, not the fraudsters. But you and I both know what we really want to see. We want to see the mugshots. We want to see the orange jumpsuits. We want to see the handcuffs. Okay? We want to see the perp walks. You know, they did it to our president here, and I'm reminded of it every single day when I take a sip out of this mug. There's the same picture that hangs right outside the Oval Office, greeting every single visitor and reminding those individuals what they did to our president. And of course, he's reminding them every day what he's going to do back. So we're here to give you the straight news every day, and we thank you for that. Okay, we got to get over in New York right now. We got to talk about what's happening there. There's some crazy stuff, and you know, it's really a shame what is happening under Mamdani over there, but we're going to break it all down for you, because you need to make sure that that template never applies to your city. New York City faces an escalating crisis as the communist mayor Zoran Mamdani rolls out plans to seize private buildings from owners labeled bad landlords. Protests are exploding outside Gracie Mansion, with New Yorkers fed up and demanding change, and President Trump, he's entered the fight, calling out the damage done to taxpayers. But one moment with Elon Musk reveals the real power dynamic at play, and what happens when ambition meets reality in America's largest city. See, this fight hits every American because New York serves as a testing ground for progressive policies on housing, taxes, and property rights. When mayors push government takeovers and massive new spending, working families bear the cost through higher taxes and fleeing businesses. Taxpayers who fund services are leaving permanently, while the costs just keep rising. If this model spreads, it weakens the entire nation by driving capital away and empowering government control over private assets. The outcome decides whether cities thrive under freedom or collapse under socialist experiments. And while the battle for American cities intensified, we have some breaking developments in our critical mineral supply chain that add national security stakes. This is breaking news on the America critical mineral supply chain. The Saga Metals story just got stronger. Less than 48 hours ago, Saga released new information suggesting that its radar project may be sitting on one of the largest titanium vanadium systems on the entire planet. Now, look at your screen there. Saga trades as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada. And to understand the scale, you need to compare radar to China's Panxinhua deposit. That's a state-linked system that's valued in the multi-billion-dollar range. It's also responsible for over 40% of global vanadium production. Now, this reduces reliance on foreign powers and strengthens U.S. industry. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to check out the in-depth interview with the CEO that I did on this topic just last weekend, and also check out the exclusive briefing that is linked below, but it's only for Next News viewers. Now back to the New York showdown, where real leadership is exposing failed policies. And fresh from that minerals update, the spotlight returns to Mayor Mamdani's $100 billion housing push and property seizures that triggered massive street protests, crowds chanting for his removal while Trump hammers the taxpayer exodus. The mayor's own words revealed the deeper clash with federal priorities. But first, remember when Elon Musk was remarking and reflecting upon his time with President Trump, and of course, the moment that that communist decided to show up in the Oval Office.
Who's the funniest person you know in real life?
You know, President Trump is very funny. He's got a great sense of humor.
President Trump is very funny.
He's very funny. He's like naturally funny, but it's somewhat effortless. I mean, you know, when he was had Mamdani in the office, and they asked him if he still thought the president was fascist, and the president said, "Just say yes. It's easier that way." Don't worry about it. Just say yes. That was awesome. He's like, yes. How silly.
That was a great moment. I'll never forget when President Trump just said, yeah, go ahead. You can tell him. So Trump's quick wit with Mamdani cutting through the noise, but the same Democrat tax and spend games are on full display over in Illinois. Yes, Darren Bailey, who is running against J.B. Pritzker, who never walked away from a buffet he didn't like, had this to say: no more welfare for billionaires until working families get relief. Here is Darren Bailey's latest.
J.B. Pritzker says there's no money to cut your taxes, no money for property tax relief, no money for working families. But somehow there's always money when a billion-dollar corporation comes knocking. $536 million for Goshen, a Chinese battery company with Communist Party ties. They secretly negotiated without a single Manteno resident having a say. Nearly $1 billion in tax breaks for data centers. One facility got $38 million, and it only created 20 permanent jobs. 20 jobs. TIF districts draining $1.3 billion a year away from local schools and neighborhoods. That's 1,000% increase in 30 years. And who's paying for all this? You are. And now Pritzker wants to keep the Bears in Illinois by freezing the team's property taxes for 40 years. That's sticking Arlington Heights homeowners and surrounding communities with at least $300 million a year in shifted burden.
Wow.
His own family's Hyatt empire gets the same special treatment. Taxpayers have poured over $180 million into renovations and upgrades at the Hyatt Regency McCormick Place. All of this while Chicago homeowners got hit with hundreds more on their property tax bills. Your property tax goes up. Your grocery bills go up. Your gas goes up. Meanwhile, billionaire corporations and the governor's own family hotels get special deals that nobody else gets. That's not capitalism. That's cronyism. And half the time, Pritzker himself has skin in the game, being personally invested in the very companies that he's handing your money to. Now, I'm not against business. I'm against a rigged system where working families get taxed to death while giant corporations cash taxpayer-funded bonus checks. When I'm governor, every corporate handout gets posted online for the public to see. If a company takes taxpayer money and doesn't deliver, we're going to claw it back. And here's a simple rule. If Springfield is giving tax relief to billion-dollar corporations, well, middle-class families better be getting relief too. You know what actually attracts jobs? Lower property taxes, affordable energy, less red tape, a state that people can afford to live in again. If Illinois has to bribe companies to come here, well, then maybe the problem isn't the incentives. Maybe the problem is Springfield. Let's put Illinois families first. Thank you, and God bless.
Looking good, Darren. Looking good. Strong message. You have my support, sir. And the sad part is the poison in New York is just spreading to Chicago. That template of corruption and corrupt policies continue to infect other cities like Chicago. But Pritzker's handing billions to corporations while working families get squeezed. Now, Mamdani is trying to rope in federal cash for his own housing scheme. Trump said Mayor Mamdani is destroying New York City. Where does the housing plan, where does this housing plan that will rely on federal money? Let's check in with his interview with Caitlin Collins on CNN.
Yeah. Well, I mean, since you and the president talked about that plan, he posted later, despite it being a very warm and glowy meeting from what the press saw. He said, quote, Mayor Mamdani is destroying New York City. It has no chance, and the United States of America should not contribute to its failure. I mean, some people might see that and say, but where does that leave plans, especially things like this housing plan that will rely on federal money? And are you worried about that being at risk here?
I think the president and I have said many things about the other. I don't think they preclude the ability for the city to actually work together with the federal administration on something of this scale. And we're going to keep pushing it forward because we believe that for far too long, ambition has been something that has been left in the history books of our city. I mean, when we look at the fact that the Empire State Building was built in 13 months and now we spend about 7 months after constructing a building just to move a tenant in. It's frankly unacceptable. And we want to show what's possible in this country. In order to do so, we have to be willing to lead with a vision of ambition that actually matches the scale of the crisis. We're going to keep doing that here, and we will always leave an invitation open to the federal administration to join us in any of this work, because we know that these are not just New Yorkers, they're Americans, and they too need to see a government that actually cares about their well-being.
Lots of flowery language from the communist there. He says we can still partner with Washington on housing despite past attacks, but Trump calling out the exact policies driving taxpayers out of New York. Here's what he had to say just the other day when he visited New York City.
Great, Mike. It's terrible things are happening. However, we have to take the good with the bad. Companies are leaving. Rich people are leaving. People that pay a lot of money, all these rich companies, big, fat, beautiful companies, they have jobs and they have money and they're leaving, and nobody's stopping them from leaving. New York can never, if we don't stop this, and I'm for you, and I'm helping you in Washington much more than I'm supposed to be helping you, believe me, New York can never be the same if it's losing its tax base, and the people that pay 85% of the taxes are leaving. And we're taking in illegal immigrants. Oh, they're wonderful people and all, but they're not paying any tax. They're taking your money. Ay, ay, ay. They're taking your money. The people that pay 85 to 90% of your taxes are leaving. And when they go, they never come back. They never come back. Nobody calls them, nobody does anything, nobody talks to them, nobody says, please don't leave, we'll give you a tax rebate, we'll do anything. Don't leave. But they're leaving. They're going to Florida, they're going to Tennessee, they're going to Texas, they're going to South Carolina, North Carolina, they're going all over the place, but they're leaving, and we can't let it happen. It's a great place. We can't. Bruce will stop it, Mike will stop it, they're all going to stop it. They'll bring them back. On top of that, the streets are dirty. The crime is out of control.
Crime's out of control. Streets are dirty. President Trump laying out how the tax base is fleeing the city. Hundreds of New Yorkers are now swarming Gracie Mansion demanding Mamdani be removed. Check this out.
One of you, stop being afraid to be labeled when we have the biggest fight of our lives here. I want all true New Yorkers to follow these two sweet words that we have from Mayor Mamdani. Only true New Yorkers, all sensitive folks, just keep your mouth shut. 1, 2, 3. Fuck you! 1, 2, 3. Fuck you! 1, 2, 3, louder. Fuck you!
Scott Lobito has 2 words for Mamdani. Yes, so New Yorkers making their fury crystal clear outside Gracie Mansion that he's telling CNN he needs $100 billion in new taxes and spending. Yeah, that's what's coming out of that communist mouth. He went on CNN and laid out his big plan to solve New York's cost of living crisis. The solution: build 200,000 new affordable units, just like communist Russia. Preserve another 200,000 and dump billions more into public housing. The price tag, up to $100 billion over the next decade. This is the same city where it already costs over $106,000 a year for a couple with no kids just to exist. Somehow his answer is still more government housing, more taxes on people who actually pay for things, and more debt. The people who made New York the most expensive city in America are now promising to fix it by doing the exact thing, but just bigger. New York is effed. Who said that? Gunter Eagleman. Check this out.
For being here as you're rolling out this new plan, just for everyone to understand the reality of what New Yorkers are facing. There was a study that your Office of Equity and Racial Justice did that found that the median cost for a couple with no kids is over $106,000 to live in New York. That's without kids, just to emphasize that. When everything from gas to food, construction prices are up, what do you expect a number like that to be by the end of this year?
You know, I think we're going to keep seeing numbers like that increase across the country, given the economic conditions that Americans are living with. As you said, the war in Iran also is not just a moral affront or a political affront, it's also an economic affront to Americans' ability to make ends meet. And that even trickles down to New Yorkers' ability to live in this city. However, the announcement we made today of a plan called Block by Block is looking to do everything we can to actually lower costs in this city, because we know that at the heart of a cost of living crisis, the number one driver of that crisis is the housing crisis. And this is an announcement that does three key things. It builds 200,000 new affordable homes, preserves 200,000 affordable homes alongside it. And then additionally, it invests in tenants across the city, makes it easier to provide code enforcement for housing violations, and does all of this while investing more than $5 billion in public housing, which has long been neglected, not just in our city, but frankly across our country.
Oh, government housing. Listen how he painted that picture. Oh my goodness. I mean, what did Ronald Reagan say? Communism, be careful, it'll come wearing an American flag. And look at it right behind him. He's spewing communist rhetoric with that American flag right behind him in the Big Apple. So his $100 billion plan's already raising eyebrows. His next step calls for seizing buildings from landlords to transfer them to nonprofits. Reverend Jordan Wells writes, New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani just announced his plan. The government will take your buildings from bad landlords, hand them to nonprofit, community land trusts, and tenants. Block by block.
When necessary, we will take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers.
We're gonna turn New York into a communist shithole, block by block. Communist block by communist block. They need to take the K off of that. It's block by block. That's what they're really trying to tell you here.
When necessary, we will take aggressive legal action to remove negligent owners and property managers. And for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards. Stewards that include community land trusts, nonprofits, or even the tenants themselves.
Communism sounds so sweet, doesn't it? Remember, it's your money. So Trump's message lands with force as he warns the people paying the most taxes are leaving New York for good. They're never returning. And this exposes how Mamdani's agenda accelerates the flight while pandering to the non-contributors. The result? It threatens fiscal collapse and hands control to government allies instead of owners. America First policies under President Trump stand as the clear alternative, restoring order and growth. You see, New York proves once again that bold conservative leadership exposes communist failures and protects the taxpayers who built this country. So share this report to spread the truth about what's really happening in our cities, whether it's New York or Chicago or Los Angeles. And drop a yes or no in the comments right now if you believe that private property rights must come first. And text the raw feed, those words, raw feed, to that secret number we've got right there on the screen, 844-840-4963. That's how you're going to bypass the algorithm and you're going to get direct updates from me to your phone. And make sure you check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. Celebrate America 250 with us, because together we defend America, and we're going to keep on winning for freedom. All right, New York is just, it's done. New York is done, guys. It's so sad. It's really sad to see what's going on there. I think, we had a couple of super chats we must acknowledge. You guys know the rules here. Oh, look at some members here. Principal Enigma Looks like we've got a Rumble rant. First time I've been able to catch you live. Great work, bro. Thank you. Principled Enigma. And Wyatt Earp just gifted 10 Next News Network memberships. Thank you, Wyatt Earp, for supporting us with Patricia and Wade and all the folks who just came in. And Principled Enigma just dropped another Rumble rant. There must have been a wire up the asses of those people cheering for Mondami. Yeah, that's probably the only way that they will cheer for Mondami. Principled Enigma. Okay, we got more news to get to because I know you guys want to talk about gas prices. It's an important issue. We feel it every single day when we go to fill up the pump. So we're going to talk about what is going on with that and discuss what was brought up at the cabinet meeting today with President Trump and, of course, the Treasury Secretary and the entire administration. Gas prices are sitting at $4.45 a gallon. And Americans are feeling the pinch at the pump, but President Trump's refusing to play the old game of draining strategic reserves just to score political points. Instead, he's staring down Iran and putting national security first. That decision, it comes with short-term pain at the pump, but signals a much larger, long-game strategy that's taking shape across the Western Hemisphere. While critics complain about the cost today, the administration is locking in long-term American energy control that could crush prices later. You see, this is not about midterms, my friends. This is about winning the long game. Now, the stakes reach far beyond what drivers will pay this summer. You see, for years, hostile regimes used energy as a weapon against the United States. Now, the Trump administration's flipping that script by pulling Venezuelan oil into American refineries under Treasury oversight while expanding Alaska production and freeing California reserves. Democrats scream about temporary price spikes, but ignore how this approach ends foreign leverage for good. If the United States secures Western Hemisphere energy flows, it reduces reliance on unstable regions and strengthens our position against China and Iran. Every barrel integrated here weakens adversaries abroad and delivers cheaper fuel at home once the Iran situation stabilizes. And that is the real price for working families. So this push for American resource independence, it connects directly to our critical mineral supply chain as well. We have been talking about this for weeks. This breaking news on the American critical mineral supply chain. Saga Metals, you've heard us talk about them. Their story just got a lot stronger. And less than 48 hours ago, they just released new information suggesting that their radar project may be sitting on one of the largest titanium vanadium systems on the entire planet. Now, Saga trades as SAGMF in the United States and SAGA in Canada. It's on your screen there. Now, to understand the scale, you got to compare the radar project to China's Panzinhua deposit. Now, that is a state-linked system that's valued in the multi-billion-dollar range. It's also responsible for over 40% of global vanadium supply. Okay? But now you have Saga with their own to compete. So check out the in-depth interview that I did with the CEO on this topic just last weekend. And the details show how domestic projects like this support the broader energy dominance agenda. And also check out the exclusive briefing that is linked below, but it's only for Next News viewers. Now back to the breaking developments on the energy front. While oil markets react to the Iran situation, new confirmation has just arrived that prices are not the long-term story. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he called current levels transitory and said that oil will finish below pre-conflict numbers once stability returns. National gas is already dropping, and that lines up exactly with what President Trump told Americans just this week. Let's take a look here at America Reports. Hugh Hewitt talking about the national security versus gas prices.
Yeah, nobody likes rolling up to the gas station right now and paying, as you said, the national average is 4.5. I'll be in California this weekend. It'll be 6.5 because of their crazy rules out in that deep blue state. Nobody enjoys that. But what I appreciate is the president said he's not caring about the midterms. What that means, and I think everyone understands, is he's putting the national security ahead of gas prices. He's not going to do, for example, former President Biden emptied a lot of the strategic oil reserve that we could really use at times like this just to keep gas prices down for electoral reasons. The president's not going to do that. He's going to win this conflict with Iran, and he's going to win it easy or hard.
Yeah, y'all remember that? When Joe Biden emptied the strategic oil reserves just to score some political points during an election time? So Hugh Hewitt says Trump is putting national security first over the gas prices, unlike Biden. Senator Mark Warner, though he's taking shots at the president regardless, he says, while Americans suffer with skyrocketing gas prices, Trump says, best I can do is a UFC fight and a new war. Well, guess what? We welcome that UFC fight. We welcome events like this on the White House grounds because it shows just how freaking badass this president really is. I think Mark Warner's just butthurt that he didn't get an invitation, or he couldn't afford the ticket price. Either way, we don't really care what Mark Warner has to say. We only want to see winning. And there's going to be a hell of a lot of winning when that fight unloads on the White House lawn. So Mark Warner claims that Trump's ignoring Americans hurting at the pump. Gunter Eagleman, though, laying out the real energy wins already rolling in from Venezuela and Alaska. Trump dropping more truth bombs on energy dominance. Venezuela oil flowing straight into the Gulf Coast refineries, helping crush gas prices for American families. In just 5 months, we flipped the entire geopolitics of energy. The Western Hemisphere is running the show now. Let's jump into the cabinet meeting that took place earlier today.
Home. It's an amazing transformation. Bottom line is the center of geopolitics around energy has moved from other parts of the world to the Western Hemisphere in the last 5 months. You turn Venezuela from a sanctioned adversary into a strategic ally in 45 minutes. Never happened in history before. And what's going on in Alaska? When I was there last week in Alaska, the North Slope, 80,000 barrels a day coming online at Pica. That wouldn't have happened with you. It's up by Willow on the North Slope. That's going into the Alaska pipeline. 20% increase just off that one field. So amazing work. Energy's a high-tech industry, and those guys are crushing it, and they're loving the fact that they can provide affordable, reliable, secure energy for America.
And we're working very hard in California. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but California has tremendous oil reserves. Used to be number 3 in the nation, and the radical left has just wiped it out. And we're working very hard to get that open again and get it so the people, their gasoline prices, their lack of energy is just staggering. It's staggering. And we're actually making very good progress. Even people that were against that at one point, now they're saying, wow, that'd be great. But people don't realize it was one of the, right, Chris, it was one of the top drilling states, one of the, I would say in terms of reserves, as among the top in the country. Nobody thinks of that with California. Everything was just closed down, really violently closed down. And we're opening up some of it, and we're being met with actually great spirit because they're paying so much for gasoline that they don't have to be doing that. And they have a very incompetent group of leaders, like grossly incompetent. So I think that's going to be something. On a slightly smaller subject, while Doug was speaking, Department of Interior, he and his people have done a fantastic.
So Trump's team is turning Venezuela into an energy ally, firing up Alaska production. President Trump himself explaining exactly when gas prices will crash. This from the cabinet meeting.
People are seeing higher gas prices. Yeah, now it's come down a little bit, but it's still $4.45.
Oh, it'll come down a lot. It'll come down to where it was before. We had it when I was in Iowa. We had driving by and we saw gas stations, $1.90 a gallon, $1.85, $1.87 were the three that we saw. We had it down in some places below. Now, we can't help but California where they charge so much tax that, you lower it and they charge tax. They've got to straighten the act out in California. But we had gasoline down to a very low number. I think we'll be hitting that number shortly after that whole excursion ends.
The whole excursion in Iran, he says prices will drop sharply. Secretary Rubio now spelling out how the Venezuelan oil flow is already delivering for Americans, gives an update on the 3-phase process that's playing out in Venezuela.
Venezuela, that process continues, that 3-phase process, of obviously stabilization, recovery and transition. I would just say, just since January 3rd of this year, okay, and I think this number's right, and Chris or Doug can correct me on this, but I think over 10 million barrels of Venezuelan oil have been delivered to the United States since the 3rd of January. That industry is being professionalized for the first time ever. It's going to the benefit of the Venezuelan people. They are selling oil in the market at market rates. The money's going to an account in the United States, controlled and monitored by Treasury, audited by KPMG, and it's for the first time ever the money's not being stolen. It's going to the benefit of the Venezuelan people.
Over 10 million barrels from Venezuela are hitting U.S. refineries, with the economy, with the money staying clean. Supporters on social media weighing in on where this is headed. Punisher Media presents The Oil Wars Decline. Gas prices crash as the deal maker strikes. Just now, oil below 90. Gas will follow. Deal with Iran. President Trump, you got to love these comic graphics that their people are putting up these days. The deal maker in chief makes progress in Iran. The experts are about to have a rude awakening. Oh, yes, they certainly will. So clearly, a viewer is tagging Eric Darty with thoughts on the president's moves. Another Trump voter just said it plain: let him cook. I voted for Trump, and therefore I will trust his decisions. Let him cook. The 4th of July will be a special one this year. Crude oil futures 77.32, May 27th, 8:36 a.m. Eastern Time. So Americans are choosing to trust Trump's calls on Iran. Despite the pump prices, oil dropping below 90 a barrel with gas set to follow. We have this here. Oil prices declining again, below 90 a barrel, while the dealmaker in chief makes progress. Gas will go down with it. The experts are going to have a rude awakening soon. Crude oil 88.81. So oil sliding under 90 as the dealmaker president works Iran. Treasury Secretary Bessent confirming the prices are transitory and heading even lower.
Entering the second half of our 250th anniversary year with renewed optimism and momentum. It has never been a better time to be an American, and as you said earlier, we have a record number of Americans working. The economy that you are building is not only strong, but secure and resilient and better positioned to compete globally. Real GDP has risen 2.7% over the past 4 quarters, something that many economists said couldn't be done. In the first quarter of 2026, despite the Iran conflict, GDP grew at a 2% annual rate. The Atlanta Fed GDP now is predicting 4.3% for this quarter. In terms of prices, I believe the prices are transitory. Oil will be lower than pre-conflict levels when this ends. Natural gas is already down, as you mentioned. Drug and pharmaceutical prices, they are plummeting, and rent is down. We are more resilient to energy price fluctuations due to your energy dominance agenda, to regulatory efforts, and we have never sold so much energy to the rest of the world. Business investment rose at a 10.4% annual rate in the first quarter. Capital expenditures and business equipment rose more than 17%, and that is as a result of the tax bill and tariffs.
Amazing. That is one heck of a report from the Treasury Secretary Bessent. So the real story is that Trump energy dominance is no longer just a slogan. It's turning Venezuela from a sanctioned adversary into a monitored supplier, feeding Gulf Coast refineries while Alaska output jumps and California faces pressure to produce again. Combined with the Iran operation, this creates one connected system that isolates enemies and floods markets with Western Hemisphere supply. When the excursion ends, gas prices are expected to fall hard and stay lower because the leverage has shifted to American hands. And this is how America wins. By controlling energy flows across our hemisphere instead of begging unstable regimes, we protect our economy and our security at the very same time. So share this report with every driver that you know. And drop a comment below with your answer to this very simple question. Do you believe the Trump energy strategy will deliver lasting lower prices for American families? Yes or no? And make sure you join the thousands of patriots who are already receiving the secret insider text messages from me. Why? Because they've already texted raw feed to 844-840-4963. They're getting direct updates that bypass the algorithm. Check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. The days of foreign nations holding us hostage at the pump, they're ending right now under this president. So stay strong, America. Wow, that was a really encouraging report. I'm finding a lot of optimism in that. Despite what the media, the doom and gloom, what they will tell you, I think you really have to understand the long game that's being played here. Because that's exactly what this is. President Trump stabilizing Western Hemisphere energy dominance so that when it is time, the gas prices are going to come down even lower. And that's what's really exciting. Okay, so we're going to be moving into our next topic. We got to talk about what's going on the moon. What's going on the moon and what's going on with disclosure. Yeah, do they go hand in hand? We're going to find out because I think so. All right. I'm ready to go. Brian, if you are, we can trigger this next report. President Trump just dropped a bombshell during a live cabinet meeting. He confirmed the administration is releasing extraterrestrial information and the public's eating it up. At the exact same moment, NASA is firing up the Space Launch System and preparing to stack the Artemis 3 rocket for a permanent American presence on the moon. This is not flags and footprints anymore. This is infrastructure, rovers, and long-term dominance. The timing of these two stories colliding raises a question that every American should be asking right now. See, our republic's future strength, it depends on controlling the high ground of space while we confront the reality that we may not be alone. You see, China is racing for the same lunar resources and strategic positions. If America plants the flag first with permanent bases and industrial capability, we secure economic and military advantage for generations. At the same time, the Pentagon's own investigators are now openly discussing non-human material recovered from crafts. Slow, deliberate disclosure under this administration is giving the public time to process instead of the shock tactics of the past. Missing this moment means ceding both the moon and the narrative to rivals who would weaponize the truth against us. Before we continue, here is why America's push into space also requires securing critical minerals supplies right here at home, because we do have breaking news on America's critical mineral supply chain. You see, the Saga Metals story, it just got a lot stronger. Less than 48 hours ago, Saga Metals released very new information suggesting that its radar project may be sitting on one of the largest titanium vanadium systems on the entire planet. Saga Metals, it's on your screen there, trades as SAGMF in the U.S. and SAGA in Canada. Now, to understand the scale, you need to compare the radar project to China's Panzinhua deposit. You see, that's a state-linked system, and is valued in the multi-billion-dollar range. It's also responsible for over 40% of global vanadium supply. But Saga has their own. You see, these metals are essential for next generation of rockets and landers and lunar infrastructure that will carry American astronauts back to the moon to stay. Make sure you check out the in-depth interview that I did with the CEO just last weekend, and check the exclusive briefing that is linked below, but is only for Next News viewers. Now back to those breaking developments connecting space dominance and disclosure. See, while NASA confirms it's building a moon base and will fly the first rover by 2028, another layer just surfaced. Former Pentagon UFO investigator told Jesse Waters under oath that the United States possesses exotic, non-human material recovered from crafts. This is no longer fringe speculation. It's now sworn congressional testimony entering the mainstream at the same time Trump himself is directing regular file releases. This is what happened at the cabinet meeting today. President Trump stating the administration is releasing extraterrestrial information. Now, if you've been tracking any of this, you've been watching our reporting, we have been tracking every single drop, and so far the Department of War has already disclosed 2 separate drops. The first actually hitting over 1 billion views, over 1 billion views worldwide. So President Trump in the cabinet meeting today, listen.
We're now releasing a lot of things having to do with space. You know, it's people are very interested in it. It actually became the #1 topic. We're releasing a lot of information having to do with extraterrestrial things, and people are totally fascinated by it. It's amazing. I wasn't sure if they would enjoy it. It's literally trending #1. Can you believe it? So a lot of people out there are like it, but we're releasing all of that information.
We're releasing all of that information. Trump confirming that they're dumping the extraterrestrial files as the topic trends #1. Now NASA is stacking hardware in Huntsville to put boots back on the moon. Let's go. America's back in the space race. NASA firing up the massive launch systems, while SpaceX and Blue Origin build the next-gen landers that will actually put boots on the lunar surface.
City Huntsville is, and it's been that way for decades and decades. And this is actually a NASA astrophysician or rocket scientist, engineer. Sharon is in charge of getting man back to the moon. Okay, so that's one of the big motors, right?
It's one of the engines. It's on the very bottom of the Space Launch System.
Okay, so your job is to build the rocket to get them up into space, right?
Right. So the Space Launch System is taking humans to the moon and going farther than humans have ever gone before. 2 months ago, we launched 4 astronauts to the moon, and it was awesome. This rocket performed beautifully, and it is designed, developed, and parts of it are built actually here in Huntsville, Alabama.
That's right. And you, hats off to her, Sharon has been at NASA for what, 40 years?
Yes.
That's awesome.
I started in kindergarten.
Well, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All right. So she's in charge of getting the astronauts up there, and Steve here is in charge of getting them back home, right?
Yeah, these are NASA's next generation landers, and so their job is to meet Orion and the crew in lunar orbit, take them to the surface, do the surface mission, and then come back to Orion for safely coming home.
Okay, and so this time, rather than NASA building the landers, this one is being built by SpaceX, and this one is being built by Blue Origin.
Yeah, we're partnering with commercial industry. We've got both Blue and SpaceX building landers. They're both making really good progress. You'll see next year actually an uncrewed demo where each of them land on the moon with full scale. And then we'll also rendezvous with Orion in an Earth orbit. So, and then be able to go to the moon, on Artemis 4 in 28.
And when you see that happen, just remember Huntsville. Huntsville makes it possible. He's been at NASA for 36 years. This guy.
Wow. What a time to be alive. Private companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin building the landers. NASA moving to stack the Artemis 3 this summer. Here is the NASA administrator on today's NASA updates.
You have the what's next in the works. So we're actually going to begin stacking the Artemis 3 rocket for the next astronaut mission this summer. But I'd say in parallel, we're also going back to the moon to stay. We're building that moon base. We announced it last month, but we got some updates for you today. We're going to talk about the first 3 missions that are coming up. These are uncrewed robotic missions to the surface. We're also going to talk about some announcements related to missions that will fly later next year and in 2028, including the first rover that someday when our astronauts get to the surface of the moon, they're going to drive around in. So we've got a lot of fun topics today.
It's amazing.
Amazing things happening at NASA. We are going back. Uncrewed missions, rover for 2028 to keep Americans on the lunar surface. And new UFO file releases dropping on a fixed schedule starting next Friday. We have this from Skywatch Signal. Is another UFO file release coming next Friday. Jeremy Corbell says the Trump admin plans to release new ones. Let's listen in.
On, the records will come out, more of them, and they will be shocking, some of them. David Grush testified to bodies, non-human intelligence bodies. So there's got to be autopsies, there's got to be photographs and footage.
The Trump administration is saying that they're going to release UFO files every 2 weeks. The next dump would be then a week from this coming Friday. What do you think will be in the next batch?
Well, I can tell you if they watched Sleeping Dog, which they did, and they read the file sets that I showed in Sleeping Dog as I buried something and brought it up out of the desert, then they know about 100 journalists have stuff they should release, and they better get moving.
Because otherwise journalists will just release it on their own?
That's the duty of a journalist, is to obtain and release stuff that is of public interest, no matter who it helps or who it hurts. If the government's been lying to you and Trump has ordered this information to come out, then it should, don't you think?
Yeah. Have you gotten any grief, any sort of, because you've been releasing these on your own first?
First of all, I'm protected under the First Amendment within journalism. So are you. So have I gotten grief? Well, sure, some underhanded stuff. If you watch the movie, you see I went through a very difficult time. My family doesn't love this, but at the same time, it's my duty and George Knapp's duty to report what it is that these whistleblowers have told us, and whistleblowers have told you. So now it's time to catch up.
You say that the communications department of the White House reached out to you. What did they want?
Yes. Well, actually, I've been reached out to comms departments from not just the Pentagon, not just the White House, not just all the different intelligence agencies you can name. They were scrambling to figure out, to be the smartest person in the room, to find out if our president does make an announcement. Whatever he says, they need to be ahead of, as they say, ahead of the 8 ball, right?
Right. So what are they asking specifically?
They want to know how to transmit this information to the American public, the fundamentals. We are not alone, or whatever it might be. How do you describe? You have to define the terminology. You also have to say why you've kept this hidden for so many years, who you've hurt to keep it hidden. Why would you hold this back, the nature of reality from humankind? Why would you do it? So the comms people were trying to figure out how to look like heroes.
I'm not sure I've heard any of them explain why they kept it hidden for so many years. Perhaps they're still working on that language.
Yeah, they need to have all their ducks in a row. Jeremy Corbell says the next batch could include autopsy photos and crash footage. Former Pentagon investigator just confirmed under oath the U.S. holds non-human material and biological remains. Former Pentagon UFO investigator said the U.S. possesses non-human material. This is from Fox News' Jesse Waters.
We are in possession of these crafts. What are we doing with them?
Yeah, Jesse, thanks for having me. I did testify in 2024 in November for the record and under oath that our government is in possession of material, exotic material that is not ours and possibly originates from somewhere else. And then I was also followed by other folks as well in later testimony who have discussed non-biological remains that were non-human biological remains that were retrieved from some of these crashes.
So when you, I guess, were speaking to these people that talked about non-human biological remains, what did they describe?
Well, Jesse, to be honest with you, when I was at the Pentagon and I was part of the Pentagon's UFO investigation team called ATIP, I was more of a nuts and bolts guy. We did have experts, scientists, and medical doctors that were looking into the biologic aspects. And by the way, this goes way back, way before my time even. We're talking literally the late 1940s. And if you look at this latest document drop and video drop that this administration has authorized for release, there is an absolute treasure trove of information contained in this second tranche of information.
Well, what do you think, what stands out to you?
Oh my gosh, Jesse, how much time do you have? I mean, we could be here all day. The reality is that this is a topic that our government has been taking very seriously for a very long time, would go to extreme lengths to try to cover it up. And this administration means business. This administration is the first administration in my memory that's actually delivering on a promise to be more transparent and open with the American public about this topic. Look, this document, this last document tranche that was released, you had documents going back to to the late 1940s, demonstrating very clearly that the UAP, or what was known in the vernacular, the UFO phenomenon, is very real, and it is certainly a national security issue. These things have been encountered over controlled U.S. airspace, and frankly can outmaneuver anything that we had and still have in our inventory.
Unbelievable. So the testimony lines up with what Trump is already authorizing, ordering the releases every 2 weeks.
We're releasing a lot of information having to do with extraterrestrial things, and people are totally fascinated by it. It's amazing. I wasn't sure if they would enjoy it. It's literally trending #1. Can you believe it? So a lot of people out there are like it, but we're releasing all of that information.
Trending #1. President Trump certainly loves to trend. So the real revelation is that these threads are not separate. Trump's America First space agenda and the controlled release of extraterrestrial information, they're happening together because both serve national strength. Permanent lunar infrastructure positions America to lead the next century. Honest disclosure prevents foreign adversaries from using secrecy against us. The public's connecting the dots faster than ever, and the Trump administration is leading rather than hiding. This moment proves once again that strong leadership delivers results on every front, from the moon to the truth about what's in our skies. America's reclaiming its destiny as the dominant space power while facing reality head on. So share this report with every patriot who needs to see it, and drop your answer to this question in the comments right now. Do you believe these two stories are connected? And join the thousands of patriots who've already texted those two words, raw feed, to that secret number you see on your screen right now, 844-840-4963. They're bypassing the algorithm. They're getting direct updates straight to their phone from me when it matters most. Make sure you check out the Next News merch shelf below this video. Celebrate America 250 with the Next News Network. The next frontier belongs to those who are not afraid to lead. All right. Principled Enigma and James Fay, thank you guys for your support again. Super Chats and Rumble Rants are coming in. Always beautiful to see that. And as these segments are being recorded, we are also publishing them on our platform, all platforms, Rumble, YouTube, and X. So if you missed any of these, you can always scroll back on the timeline right now, or you can very simply go back to our YouTube channel and explore them and share them independently. And that's the format that we've chosen here to give you the most leverage when it comes time to share the truth with your friends and your family about what's really happening in this country. So we sincerely appreciate your support when you do share our reporting. We're going to continue now. We got to talk about these chemtrails. Yeah, chemtrails. It's a word that we've heard. It's a word that's been debated. Some say debunked, others say proven. But of course, we let you be the judge. Have you ever looked up in the sky? Have you ever looked up and wondered why those airplane contrails just seem to linger and linger and linger and spread out, and then suddenly your entire sky is gray? Well, now it appears as RFK Jr. is on the case. Finally. Right now, over Tampa Bay, the skies are crisscrossed with thick white lines that refuse to fade. A concerned resident captured it all on video, demanding answers from state leaders and the Senate. Now, these aren't normal contrails. They're spreading out. They're blocking the sun. They're leaving people wondering exactly what's being released above our heads. The question echoes across the country. What are these trails really for? You see, for years, Americans were told that chemtrails were nothing but conspiracy nonsense. But now, a sitting cabinet official, RFK Jr., he's naming names and he's vowing to stop it. See, this matters because our skies are supposed to belong to the people, not hidden programs. When materials enter jet fuel and cloud seeding runs across dozens of states without real oversight, it touches everything from our health to food production to national security. And under President Trump, truth is finally surfacing after decades of dismissal by prior administrations. And while the fight to secure our skies moves forward, there's another critical battle for American strength. It's happening right beneath the surface. This breaking news on America's critical mineral supply chain, the Saga Metals story, you've heard us talking about it here for weeks now. It just got a lot stronger. Less than 48 hours ago, Saga released new information suggesting that its radar project may be sitting on one of the largest titanium and vanadium systems on the entire planet. Now look at your screen and see those tickers? Saga trades as SAGMF in the US and SAGA in Canada, so write that down. But to understand the scale of this project, you need to compare the radar project to China's Panzinhua deposit. Look it up. It's a state-linked system. It's valued in the multi-billion-dollar range. It's also responsible for 40% of global vanadium. Check out the in-depth interview with the CEO I did on this very topic just a few weekends ago. You see, these discoveries, they strengthen our domestic supply chain and reduce reliance on foreign adversaries. Also, check out the exclusive briefing that is linked below, but it is only for Next News viewers. Now back to the skies. Yes, RFK Jr. went further than anyone in government ever has on this issue of chemtrails. He directly tied the spraying to DARPA, and he announced that he's bringing in a dedicated person whose only job is to expose and to stop it. Now, you may have been a child of the 80s. I'm a child of the 80s. I remember the movie The Goonies. And of course, who can forget the Fratellis, right? Well, Robert Davi, famous Hollywood actor, he's asking the question, chemtrails over Tampa Bay. He spotted them.
I'm here in Tampa. Can somebody from Florida, from Tampa, somebody in the state Senate, the government, DeSantis, somebody in Tampa, what are these chemtrails doing here? Look at this. Look at the chemtrails. They're making them now, crisscrossing all over the place. What are all these chemtrails? Are these chemtrails? I don't know. Maybe I'm paranoid, but what the fuck is going on? What are these chemtrails? What are they? And they keep making them. They're not stopping. What are they preparing for? What's this bullshit? What are they seeding the clouds for?
What are they seeding the clouds for? That's the question. Robert Davi calling out the chemtrails blanketing Tampa Bay. Dr. Robert Malone explains why this administration still won't make stopping them a priority. The question, RFK Jr. was pushing big on ending chemtrails. Why isn't there a bigger push to end the chemtrail spraying in our skies? Dr. Robert Malone weighs in.
People in the chat room are saying you got to ask him about chemtrails and the administration. I know Bobby Kennedy. No. Bobby Kennedy was pushing big on this.
I'm an expert on chemtrails. I've been writing about chemtrails ever since I was 8 years old.
So why is there not a greater push from this administration to end this chemical spraying in our skies? It's enough already.
Okay, so from my idiosyncratic outsider perspective, this goes way back to the 60s. Lyndon Johnson was an advocate of weather change. We have deep investment from the intelligence community in the technology for manipulating weather. Manipulation of weather is perceived as having great benefit in all kinds of parameters. Both domestically and internationally. And we still are dealing with the residue of the whole climate change propaganda. So why this administration clearly doesn't see this as a priority, as opposed to Ron DeSantis, to his credit. Mm-hmm. And I all I can speculate is that the influencers that have the ear of the president right now do not see this as a priority. And if people want it to be a priority, like with everything in this Maha movement, They've got to get out there and make it quite clear that they care about this. And I don't see enough momentum. We can't even get enough momentum to push back against the administration's bottling up the secretary over vaccine policy. If Maha or others want to make a dent in the use of these chemicals to manipulate weather, they've got to make it, really, really clear.
Well, RFK Jr. is in fact making it clear. He says voters need to force the issue, though, Malone says, if they want action. HHS is already assembling a team to investigate the aerial spraying. This we posted some time ago. Nicole Shanahan confirms the investigation. Cloud seeding contracts exist across America. The sky poisoning operation about to be blown wide open. And of course, she was RFK Jr.'s running mate when he was running for president.
And I do know that HHS is in the process of putting together a team to investigate this. Much is unknown. Some is known. We do know that cloud seeding does exist. We do know that counties throughout the United States have active contracts with private companies to cloud seed and thus bring greater moisture to arid lands. And this is all done under the umbrella of climate change mitigation. And so what we don't know and what HHS wants to figure out is the full spectrum of these activities and whether there is a fundamental missing regulatory body looking into harmful impacts of these practices.
So Nicole Shanahan confirming HHS is in fact digging into the programs. EPA acknowledging these trails are geoengineering that raises ground temperatures. What you're seeing in the sky isn't just condensation. Even the EPA has acknowledged airplane trails are geoengineering. According to federal statements, these activities alter solar radiation and can increase temperatures, not cool them. Let that sink in. This is from Lindell TV.
And the EPA has affirmatively stated something a little different than what I've said already, which is that geoengineering is taking place with the airplane activity in the sky. In other words, what we see is geoengineering, and what it is doing, like that airplane trail that you see, that is geoengineering in both of them. And that the end result is a reduction in sun hitting the earth and an increased temperature on the earth.
Your lawsuit is one to watch. We'll continue to dig in on what we heard about the jet fuel, but like you said, you have documented, stated evidence as to what is going on based on whistleblower information, etc.
That was Blake Horwitz with thegeofight.com. So federal statements confirm geoengineering is happening. RFK Jr. naming DARPA as the agency putting the materials in the jet fuel. HHS Secretary RFK Jr. said DARPA responsible for the chemtrails. He said it on national television. No one even talked about it. U.S. Secretary of Health RFK dropped this bombshell on Dr. Phil. He said it's done, we think, by DARPA. A lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel. Those materials are put in the jet fuel. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. We're bringing on somebody who's going to think about only that and find out who's doing it and hold them accountable. For years, they called it a conspiracy theory. Now, the guy in charge of our health is saying enough. Secret military program spraying our skies? Not on his watch. The skies belong to we the people and not the shadowy agencies. So RFK Jr. said it. It's done, we think, by DARPA. In the jet fuel. RFK Jr. breaking down the chemtrail conspiracy. Going to go after the DARPA link spraying. And we got some examples for you. You can see here. What is this plane doing? Without telling me what this plane is doing. Chemtrails, contrails, Boeing. I mean, look at that. One after another in the same exact arcing pattern. You tell me, guys. What do you see? Of course, they got to add the creepy music, but the footage captures the plane in action over American skies. RFK Jr. pledging to put an end to the crime of geoengineering. Also announced plans to collaborate with Trump on policy, including prosecuting those responsible, and we're going to stop this crime. What do you see here? Look at that. One after another, crisscrossing the skies, polluting our atmosphere. In the name of what? So apparently there are already 42 active cloud seeding projects across the West, with 200 more planned. Here is Valerie Ann Smith and Ginger Lee exploring weather modification in the American West. This was on ABC, guys.
There are currently 42 cloud seeding projects across the American West, like this one in Utah, where they take planes like this with flares attached. They fly right into the storm and send microscopic particles into the cloud. Particles that act like magnets for water droplets, bonding together until they are heavy enough to fall to the ground as rain or snow. At the University of Colorado, researchers are working on artificial intelligence to deploy cloud seeding drones.
And it's not just cloud seeding from the sky. There are hundreds of those things. That shack you see in the foreground is a ground-based cloud seeder. The little flame coming out is sending tiny silver iodide particles up into the sky. When a storm comes through, they go up to 2,000 feet above our head, into the storm, up those mountains, and make more snow than it naturally would.
While cloud seeding has been helping get every last drop out of some of the driest years on record, this past winter, Mother Nature came through. The Southern Rockies, which feed the Colorado River, got more than 4 times their average snow. But experts say it's still not enough.
As much as cloud seeding is a boost or a help, it's not a solution. The main solution is
conservation.
Cloud seeding is most successful in wet years, so this was a huge winter for them. They actually stopped early because Mother Nature was giving up so much. Now, studies have shown that the environmental impacts from the silver iodide, on the current scale, there are no impacts to snow or rain, also downstream, so it doesn't impact.
So, there you have Good Morning America admitting it. RFK Jr. says a secret military agency is spraying dangerous chemicals in the sky and vows to stop it. So RFK Jr. called it a crime and promised to prosecute those responsible. He said the operation is real, it's happening now, and this administration will no longer look the other way. That single statement has collapsed the old taboo. Geoengineering and atmospheric spraying are now part of mainstream government conversation because President Trump put the right people in place to confront it. So this is really no longer fringe talk. A Trump administration officials leading the charge to reclaim our skies, and the deep state programs that operated in the shadows for decades are facing real accountability at last. So share this report so more Americans see the truth, and comment below with a yes if you want RFK Jr. to move fast on this, or no if you need some more proof. And then text raw feed to that secret number you see right there on your screen, 844-840-4963. That's how you get direct updates straight to your phone and bypass the algorithm. I'll send you the news when it matters most. And make sure you check out the Next News merch shelf that is below this video. I want to celebrate America 250 with you. Remember, our skies belong to we the people, and now we have leaders who are willing to fight for them. Okay, chemtrails getting exposed. I always love to hear stories like that. You know, I'm so happy that RFK was put in that position. I initially had wanted him to be as the vice president, but I think he's serving so much more in his role as HHS secretary. Such a critical position for him to be in, to have the most impact with the knowledge that he is presenting and exposing to the American people. All right, now we got to get into the what happened in that cabinet meeting today with Ilhan Omar and a lot of the fraud that's being exposed in Minnesota. Yeah, it's long overdue. I don't know when this deportation of Ilhan Omar is going to occur, but I know you and I are cheering for that moment. It couldn't come fast enough. I do know that J.D. Vance is investigating. Tom Homan is investigating. the immigration fraud. That's just one tract of fraud that is allegedly being perpetrated by Ilhan Omar from her office. So we can only hope and pray that something happens quickly, but of course the wheels of justice, they don't move as fast as we would like. So let's move into that and figure out exactly what is going on with Ilhan Omar. President Trump just dropped a bombshell on Minnesota fraud that has Ilhan Omar and Governor Tim Walz square in his crosshairs. He says both are complicit in a massive Somali-linked scam that drained public funds, and the numbers are staggering. President not holding back. Republicans are now pushing hard to expose every layer of this betrayal. What happens when the full truth lands on the American people or Ilhan Omar? See, the fight's about whether foreign-born politicians with divided loyalties can keep rewriting rules while ordinary taxpayers foot the bill. Nancy Mace's efforts to subpoena Omar's records and bar non-natural-born citizens from Congress, they've been blocked repeatedly. Trump's team is framing the Minnesota scandal as proof that lax immigration and welfare systems have been exploited for years, and the stakes, they go straight to national identity and who actually runs this country. Secure supply chains matter just as much as secure borders right now. You see, while Washington finally cracks down on fraud networks, America must also secure its critical mineral supply chain. This breaking news on America's critical mineral supply chain. The Saga Metal story just got a lot stronger. Less than 48 hours ago, Saga, we've been reporting on, they released new information suggesting that its radar project may be sitting on one of the largest titanium and vanadium systems on the entire planet. You see, Saga trades, look at your screen, as SAGMF in the United States and SAGA in Canada. But to understand the scale, look it up. You got to compare the radar project that Saga has to China's Panxinhua deposit. Now that Chinese deposit is state-linked. It's a state-linked system. And it's valued in the multi-billion-dollar range. It's also responsible for over 40% of global vanadium production. And Saga is about to compete head-on. You see, this discovery strengthens U.S. efforts to reduce reliance on foreign sources, like China's project. Check out the in-depth interview with the CEO that I did on this topic just a few weekends ago, and also check the exclusive briefing that is linked below, but is only for Next News viewers. And that kind of domestic strength, it pairs perfectly with the administration's drive to root out every single last fraud ring. You see, but the pressure on Ilhan Omar, it just ratcheted up another notch. Trump is telling J.D. Vance to go after these fraudsters with full force. And he made one thing absolutely clear. Let's jump into the Oval Office now, where President Trump says he believes that Walz and Omar are complicit in the Somali fraud.
What they've done is so sad. When you look at the Minnesota scam, a lot of it has to do with Somalia. Nobody's calling out anybody, but a lot of it has to do, but it's Somalia and plenty of others. And I believe the governor is complicit. I believe Ilhan Omar is complicit. I believe that your attorney general is complicit. And if they are, you're going to hopefully find out about it, and you're going to have to do what you have to do. If we found half of the fraud that's taking place in this country, and I think you have a chance of doing that, we would have much more than a balanced budget. That's the kind of numbers you're talking about. The theft is incredible. And I think JD will make, and Andrew will make a charge later on that local states should handle nursing homes and all of these things that the federal government shouldn't be involved in. It's too big. The federal government should handle military and a couple of other things. But when it comes to nursing homes, you saw where a young gentleman was going around and knocking on doors, and none of the nursing homes existed, none of the nurseries existed. The money that's being paid out, and the federal government pays for it. When you see all these people coming in illegally into our country, many criminals, many drug dealers, murderers, 11,888 murders, and you look at California, and more come in, and yet they never had money, and yet they pay them. You know why they pay them? Because the federal government is charged with paying. We're not paying them anymore, and I said that. So these two...
President Trump's remarks from the Oval Office. naming Ilhan Omar as complicit in the Minnesota Somali fraud. And Omar shrugging off Nancy Mace's bill requiring natural-born citizens from Congress. Shadow J says, deport her immediately. And this was her reaction.
Can I ask you about Nancy Mace? She proposed a resolution that would bar foreign-born individuals from serving in Congress. What do you think about that? She mentioned you as an example. What's your response to that?
Good luck to her.
So you don't think it will go anywhere?
No.
And also, Randy Fine has one about giving up. If you're a dual citizen, you have to give up your citizenship in the other country, renounce it. What do you think about that?
Who's that?
Randy Fine.
Oh.
Absolute disregard. Her dismissal proves exactly why the bill is overdue. No more letting people fresh off the boat or refugee plane rewrite our laws while their hearts stay anchored overseas. She's dismissing it with a quick good luck. And now here's Nancy Mace announcing she was blocked from levying subpoenas against Somali Rep Ilhan Omar's likely fraud.
Anybody born outside of the United States should be allowed to serve in Congress. Tell our viewers about your thoughts on that.
Correct. We don't have to look any further than Ilhan Omar or that guy, I can't say his last name, Shri. These are people who've pledged allegiance to foreign countries. They are influenced, I believe, by their foreign allegiance to other countries. And we want to make sure that America is run by American patriots. And if the president has to be natural born, so too should members of Congress. So too should our judges. That's what my legislation was about. But we shouldn't stop there in Congress. Every single state across the country should ban foreigners or foreign-born individuals from being governor, from being lieutenant governor, from serving in state legislatures. We're seeing what's happening right now in real time to Europe, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen here, because once you're gone, there's no coming back from that. And in fact, in the governor's race, we've got someone who's foreign-born. I don't think he should be able to run for governor. We don't know what his influences are, and I want to make sure that natural-born citizens like the President of the United States, that they're from here and serving our nation's interests.
So would that be retroactive, Congresswoman, in your view? Would you actually throw people like Ilhan Omar out of Congress if you got this legislation passed?
Well, I've tried to throw Ilhan Omar out of Congress and have been blocked every time. In fact, I tried to subpoena her and her alleged husband's immigration records and was stopped from doing that too. I would be fine if we made it retroactive, but at least going forward, if this thing can happen, then for the next election cycle or re-election cycle, it would apply to those individuals who should not be serving in Congress.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace, a pleasure.
Always a pleasure to hear Nancy Mace's remarks and the actions that she's taking to clean up Congress. President Trump tells J.D. Vance to be absolutely vicious towards the fraudsters. You haven't seen anything yet. This was from the cabinet meeting.
Democrats ever got in, you wouldn't have said Social Security would be bankrupt. People wouldn't be getting anything. Last week, they took down 2 of the largest Medicaid fraud cases in Minnesota history, as well as the largest autism fraud case ever charged by the federal government. You saw that with millions of dollars just being stolen. Everybody had autism. Everybody had autism, they said. It was incredible, actually. And I've just seen I see what they're doing. You haven't seen anything yet. So congratulations, JD. Be vicious like they are. They're violent people. They're violent, vicious scum.
You haven't seen anything yet. Be vicious. Trump ordering Vance to get vicious on the fraud ring. Also flagging the flood of fake Social Security payments going to people listed as 115 and 125 years old.
We have a chance to save Social Security without doing anything to it by just the numbers of fraudulent people on Social Security, people that are 115 years old, 125 years old, getting payments. It's funny, I said, oh, do those payments get turned back? No, they accept them. Well, somebody's getting the payment. It's not a person that's 125 years old. But that's the least of it. The numbers that we're finding out, we have great people at Social Security. We're going to make our Social Security so strong, so good, that you've never seen anything like it. We're going to protect.
Trump exposing the Social Security payouts to century-plus recipients, calling out Somali directly and what they've done in Minnesota. So he's doubling down from the Oval Office to the cabinet room.
Crooked people. These are thieves. This isn't like a mistake. Just talking about one person, he got hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for securing one man, for taking care of one elderly man. He was a service. He got paid millions of dollars for taking care of one man. Total crook. They're all crooks. The Somalians, what they've done to Minnesota, the Somalians, they're crooked as hell. Ilhan Omar, crooked as hell. They're all crooks. And we got them. We got them. Now we're putting the clamps on. But boy, I tell you, that's an impressive group of guys that you have behind you. I was watching that, and a couple of very strong women, too. But I was watching that last night. I said, I'm proud of you guys.
We're putting the clamps on them. Let's just hope those clamps are handcuffs. So Trump said he hadn't seen anything yet. He called the Somali networks in Minnesota crooked as hell. So the clamps are now on. Combined with Nancy Mace's natural-born citizenship push and the block subpoenas, the message is unmistakable. The Trump administration is treating this as a national security and loyalty issue, not just another scandal. So the fight over Ilhan Omar has become the front line in the battle to restore American sovereignty and stop foreign influence from draining our systems. Americans are tired of paying for divided loyalties. So share this report and drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more. And my question is, do you believe Congress should require natural-born citizens only? Yes or no? And join the thousands of patriots who've already texted those two words, raw feed, to that secret number that we set up just for you, 844-840-4963. It's on the screen. And that's how they are bypassing the algorithm. That's how they are getting direct messages from me. And now I want you to benefit as well. And check out the Next News merch shelf that's below this video. Celebrate America 250 with us. We're taking our country back one exposed scandal at a time. So what a remarkable show we've had tonight. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Johnny and Vicky, Remmer T. Joshua, all of our new friends over on X, over at Trump Daily Post. And so we'll be here every night, Monday through Friday, God willing. And we'll be bringing you the latest from the White House, as I am a White House credentialed correspondent. Thanks to President Trump for opening up the White House for individuals like me who bring the truth to the American people without the corporate spin that you see from CNN or MSNBC. But he's opened the doors for people like myself, independent journalists who strive to bring a message of truth and unity to the American people. So stay tuned, because we're not going anywhere. But as long as you're here, so will we. We'll see you tomorrow night.